Welcome back to the Game Loop Recap. Get ready for some truly monster sales numbers, a spooky VR adventure from a studio I think we all know and love, and a look at some pretty serious challenges facing game developers today. We're diving into three big themes today: industry giants raking in the dough, indie darlings doing what they do best, and some serious labor pains that honestly have everyone wondering what's next for the industry. First up, Capcom. They are sitting on a mountain of gold right now. Their biggest franchises, Resident Evil and Monster Hunter. They just hit these absolutely unbelievable sales milestones. Resident Evil has now sold a staggering 167 million units lifetime. And Monster Hunter is right behind it at 105 million.
Yeah, and you know what's really interesting is it's not just about nostalgia. Yeah, they've got these long-running series, but they're not afraid to shake things up. Capcom keeps putting out quality titles. They build on what works, but they're not afraid to experiment and try new things to keep players engaged.
Right? You think about it. Monster Hunter World, Rise, Resident Evil 7 Village, that incredible RE4 remake, these aren't just quick cash grabs. They're legitimate hits that are really pushing their franchises forward. And speaking of Monster Hunter, did you see those open beta numbers for Wilds on Steam? It peaked at almost 500,000 players. I mean, that's blowing past even Call of Duty in terms of concurrent players.
Yeah, I think Capcom might have another world-level hit on their hands. Remember what happened when that game came out on PC? It was a phenomenon. This beta response, that's huge, especially after we've seen some other betas completely flop recently and then fail to actually translate that into launch success.
All right. Time to talk about the 800-pound gorilla in the room, Call of Duty, Black Ops 6. It just completely shattered records. Officially the biggest Call of Duty release ever, according to Microsoft.
Yeah, this launch is really fascinating because it kind of tells us a few things. First, Game Pass is a powerhouse. That debut on Game Pass definitely boosted the game's reach. Second, Black Ops 6 did incredibly well on both PC and PlayStation. So it's not just a console thing or a PC thing, it's hitting everywhere.
Yeah. Even with physical sales dipping a bit in the UK,
Yeah.
it's still a huge win for Activision and for Microsoft's whole subscription service strategy. What do you think? Is this the future of gaming? These all-you-can-eat services?
It's a great question, and it's definitely something worth thinking about. On one hand, it's a win for gamers who just want access to a ton of variety. But on the other hand, what happens to those smaller studios who just can't get onto these platforms? It's definitely something we're going to keep a close eye on.
Absolutely. Now for something completely different.
Yeah.
Ubisoft, they're on this whole nostalgia kick, saying they want to recapture the creativity and innovation of their golden age, basically 2010 to 2020, which that was a pretty wild decade for them.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, think about the games that came out during that era. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, Far Cry 3, Watch Dogs. Ubisoft was taking risks, and players really loved it. But here's where things get a little strange.
Yeah, you're telling me they're chasing this like creative rebirth while also laying off over 2,000 employees in just the past 2 years. That doesn't exactly scream we're investing in innovation, does it?
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a head-scratcher. I mean, is this nostalgia play genuine, or is it just a PR move to try to soften the blow of them downsizing?
Yeah.
AAA development is incredibly expensive these days, and maybe they're just trying to recapture some of that past magic while also tightening their belts. It's a tough situation, and to be honest, we've seen this trend across the entire industry.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think about the pressure these studios are under to deliver hits.
Right.
But for now, let's lighten the mood a bit with some good news from the indie scene. Fireproof Games, the masterminds behind the Room series. They're back with a new spooky VR adventure called Ghost Town.
Oh, man, I love the room games, the puzzles, the atmosphere, just brilliant. And this time, it's set in 1980s London. You play as a ghost hunter searching for your missing brother. It's like they ripped a story straight out of my childhood nightmares, but in like the best way possible.
And knowing how good Fireproof Games is at creating those tactile, mind-bending puzzles,
Yeah.
this just has to be incredible in VR.
Oh, yeah. Imagine actually reaching out and manipulating those creepy objects, feeling that tension build as you're solving each puzzle, and the atmosphere of 1980s London all around you. I'm already sold.
Yeah, me too. So we've got these industry titans raking in cash, indie devs cooking up some truly unique experiences. But it's not all sunshine and roses, is it? The industry is going through some serious growing pains, and we need to talk about it. Unfortunately, we're starting with some bad news. Sony's big gamble on their live service shooter Conquered. It's crashed and burned hard. This was supposed to be their big push into that market. And now Firewalk Studios, the team behind it, they're being shut down.
Yeah, this is a huge blow to Sony. They specifically acquired Firewalk to make live service games, which,
Yeah.
for anyone who doesn't know, live service games are designed to be constantly updated and to have these big online communities. Think like Fortnite or Destiny. It's a really tough market to break into. And Concord's failure just really highlights how high the stakes are.
Yeah, and to make matters even worse,
Yeah.
the rumors are that Concord cost somewhere between $200 and $400 million to develop. That's a lot of money down the drain.
Yeah, no kidding. It's a really stark reminder that even these giants like Sony, they aren't immune to these market pressures. Live service games are incredibly complex. You've got to keep players engaged. You've got to keep the content flowing. And that's not easy. It's a huge challenge.
Absolutely.
And it's not just Sony that's feeling the heat either. I mean, we're seeing layoffs and studio closures happening all across the industry. And that's led to a pretty big surge in unionization efforts.
Yeah, you're right. The UK's Independent Workers of Great Union, the IWGB, their game workers branch just released their manifesto. And they're pushing for, better working conditions, fairer pay, and an end to crunch, which that insane overtime culture has really plagued the industry for way too long.
It really has. And the IWGB has been growing like crazy, which just shows you that developers are realizing they need a seat at the table. They're tired of being squeezed, especially when these companies are pulling in billions of dollars.
Yeah, it really feels like we're at a tipping point for labor in the gaming world. But
Yeah.
hold on, because Ubisoft's about to make things even more interesting. They just announced their first blockchain game, Champions Tactics, Grimoria Chronicles. And get this, it's got NFTs that can cost you up to £50,000.
Okay. I'll admit, I'm raising an eyebrow at this one. Remember their last attempt at NFTs?
Yeah.
Didn't really set the world on fire, and the whole blockchain gaming scene has cooled off quite a bit.
Yeah. It does feel like they're swimming against the current here. Are they onto something that the rest of the industry is missing, or is it just a giant expensive misstep?
Yeah.
Only time will tell, I guess. All right. To take a break from all this industry drama, let's talk about something a little more fun. Death Note, Killer Within, a brand new social deduction game based on the anime. It's hitting PS5 and PS4. And even better, it's going straight into the PlayStation Plus monthly games lineup.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. Imagine stepping into the shoes of Light or L, using the Death Note to eliminate other players, gathering clues, and just trying to outsmart everyone in the game. That's a high-stakes game of cat and mouse right there.
Yeah, I love social deduction games.
Yeah.
And with the Death Note theme, this one has the potential to be massive. I mean, the team-based gameplay and the focus on deception just sounds like a recipe for an awesome time.
Yeah, for sure. And think about the psychology of it all. You've got the power of the Death Note, but you have to use it really carefully. One wrong move, and your identity's blown.
Yeah.
It'll be fascinating to see how players adapt their strategies and navigate those really tense social dynamics.
Absolutely. So this week has been a roller coaster. We've got Capcom celebrating record-breaking sales, Ubisoft making some risky bets on blockchain technology, and studios struggling to stay afloat in this super cutthroat market.
Yeah, it's really clear that the gaming landscape is in constant flux right now. The choices these companies are making now, they're going to have a ripple effect for years to come.
Absolutely. And as we look ahead, there are some pretty big questions that remain. Will this relentless pursuit of blockbuster franchises and these live service behemoths, will it come at the expense of creativity and fair labor practices?
Yeah, it's a wild time to be a gamer, that's for sure. The industry's at a crossroads, and it feels like anything could happen. Yeah, and that's what makes it so exciting to follow, right? Will we see this industry start to shift towards more ethical and sustainable practices? Or are we just headed for even more turbulence?
Those are the million-dollar questions. And honestly, I think the answers lie with all of us, the developers, the publishers, and most importantly, the players.
I totally agree. Players have more power now than ever before. The choices we make, the games we support, the companies we choose to hold accountable, it all adds up.
So true. So as you're firing up your consoles or your PCs this week, just take a second and think about what kind of gaming future you want to see. Do you want an industry that prioritizes creativity and worker well-being, or one that just chases profits at all costs? That's something worth thinking about. Well, that about wraps up this week's Game Loop recap. We covered Capcom's incredible success, Ubisoft's blockchain gamble, the unfortunate demise of Concord, and of course, the growing momentum for change in the industry.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind of a week.
Right.
But as always, the gaming world never fails to keep us on our toes.
That's for sure. Until next time, keep on gaming and keep those conversations going.